Well, good evening. It's good to see those that are here. The crowd is down. I may or may not take that personally, but that's okay. And I don't know as a father how you can be proud of your son, but also upset with him because he set the bar really high. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell y'all, I'm probably going to let you down. But on a serious note, if I may take a moment, I want to show my appreciation to everyone for the encouraging words that you give us and Joshua. It means a lot, and I really appreciate it. Thank y'all. And as always, I want to thank the elders for allowing us the opportunity to get up here and speak to y'all. And so I hope and pray that tonight the things I do say are in accordance with the Bible. And that if there's any concerns or questions, you can feel free to talk to me, ask me questions, and we'll discuss it. But I hope everything will just come straight from the Bible. And I have had a little bit of a cough, and I left my water bottle, so we're going to hope for the best. My hero. Thank you. Of course, I was a little reluctant to do this because last time the twist technology kind of threw me and I couldn't get it back on. So, okay. Thank you for that little bit of patience there. When I was growing up, some of you will know this, some of you won't have a clue, but he has become kind of a novelty over the years, so you'll probably recognize the name. When I was growing up, on Saturdays, and this may show how bored of a child I was, I enjoyed watching a gentleman by the name of Bob Ross. He did a little short painting show, and it was pretty amazing to watch him paint a picture right there in front of you. Always made me want to go and be a painter. Never happened. I can barely draw stick figures sometimes, but watching him put this art out there in front of you and do the things he could do. And then you look at anybody's or at any painting, and you see art, and you see what goes into it. You see the beauty of it. And there's different forms of art. There's different crafts you may do. There's sewing. There's different forms of art. But I'm going to kind of focus on painting. I'm going to kind of focus on painting tonight. And in doing that, and where I'm going with this is, it's been a long time back. I was driving down the road and I saw a billboard that said the art of marriage. And I don't remember what it was advertising or anything, but I just remember I saw the art of marriage. And it made me think, you know what? Marriage is an art. And you'll see where I'm going, and I hope you'll see the correlation as we go on into this, but marriage is an art. So I want to talk to you tonight about the art of marriage. Now, I will go ahead and say this. I'm no expert on marriage. I've been married for a while, 29 years. See, I remembered. I did get that right, didn't I? Okay. All right. Check one for me. No. But I'm not an expert, and I'm not a counselor. I know there are self-proclaimed counselors out there that do nothing more than mutilate and massacre the Bible when they so-called counsel people about marriage, and all they do is come up with excuses to make the person that they're talking to feel like they're in the right. I just want to talk to you from the Bible. I care about marriage. It's something special to me. I want my kids to have great marriages. I want us all to have great marriages. I understand marriages are under attack. It's nothing new. We know marriage has been under attack for many years. But also, too, I've seen a lot of different sides of marriage. I've watched my grandparents. They were separated in death. I have no doubt in my mind that if they had lived to match each other in their old age, into their 80s and 90s, they would have still been married. But they were separated in death. But sadly, I've seen the ugly side. I'm a child of divorce. And I don't want marriages to come to divorce. Now, tonight's lesson is not necessarily on divorce and remarriage. I'm going to kind of back it way up and hopefully give some people some thoughts, young people especially, some things to think about so that hopefully you can enter into a marriage, make it strong, grow it, it will succeed, and you will do everything that God intends for you to do so that it doesn't end up in that nasty divorce. I've been there. And it has effects on people, especially the kids. And parents that don't think that are dead wrong. I'm 53 years old. I still have problems. I still have effects. It still affects me. See, it's a nasty thing, and we need to avoid it. And so we need to look to what God says to do. So, the art of marriage. Make sure we got, there we go. The art of marriage. As you can see here, painting. My daughter, and I think, there's Mackenzie, they paint. And you can look at some of these and you can see all that goes into it. Watch someone paint, and there's a lot to it, and it's fascinating. And so in the art of marriage, how do we compare this to a painting, David? Well, you look at preparation, passion, and perseverance. You see this go into someone in their art, what they're doing, their painting. In preparation, obviously, you're going to make sure you're prepared. You're going to see, do I have the paints? Do I have my brushes? Do I have my canvas? Do I have my pattern? And in anything you're going to do, you're going to make sure you got what you need so that you can do that. And in a lot of cases, you're going to make sure that you know, okay, what am I doing? Do I have a pattern? Do we have a pattern for marriage? Yes, we do. We have the Bible. We have God's pattern for marriage. Do we really need anything else? Not really. Not really. God's pattern is really all we need. It's what we know. We know what is expected of us as young men and young ladies wanting to enter into marriage, and as husbands and wives, and what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do things. But I also want to share with you a few things to understand. I think I got a record going. I always get ahead of my PowerPoint because I forget to click. A few things that marriage is not. Now, bear with me, because when I say some of these, I'm probably going to get some weird looks on your faces, but I'll explain them and hopefully you'll see. Marriage is not a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. It's not an on-again, off-again relationship. We think of high school, and you may have a boy and a girl that they're boyfriend-girlfriend 15 different times before the end of the day. That's not marriage. Marriage is the next level. Matthew 19:6. This is where Jesus is talking, and he's talking about what God has joined together. Let no man separate. You see the importance. You see the importance of this relationship. Keep in mind that marriage is the marriage relationship is second only to that of your relationship with God. In Romans 7:2, if you'll turn over there, Romans chapter 7, verse 2, it says, "For the married woman is bound by law to her husband while he is living. But if her husband dies, she is released from the law concerning the husband." And what I'm focusing on here is it says, while he is living. But if her husband dies, she's released. This is till death. You need to understand, this is for life. If you're young, you're thinking about going into marriage, you need to take it seriously. And you need to understand that it is for life and it's till death. And also kind of going along with this, it's another marriage is not, but I'm listing it within this. Marriage is not trading cars. Now, I've been guilty of that when I was young. Got into wanting to trade cars. We have a car, nothing's wrong with it. Hey, I want this other one. I like the way it looks. So you go and you trade. You have it. I don't want this one anymore. I like that truck over there better. So you trade for it. That's not marriage. You're not trading cars. You better be ready to be devoted to one person for life. If you can't do this, then walk on. You're not ready for marriage. And I understand that I'm talking to a lot of people here tonight that are already married. I'm hoping that anybody that may listen to this or anything that this might be shared with to young people, that this is something that might help. But even those of us that are married can always take something from a marriage lesson, because we always need to be working on it. We'll talk about that a little later when we talk about perseverance. Marriage is not an eraser. Now, I'm sure there's some of the weird looks. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, Matthew 19:5, this is the verse that's talking about leaving mother and father, being joined to one another. Cleave, the King James Version says cleave. The leave and cleave. Yes, we leave and we cleave. You go, you be on your own. It's you and your wife. It's you and your husband. You're on your own. You're responsible for each other. Yes. And you have to take care of life. You have to take care of things together with each other. You know, if you get your little feelings hurt and you pooch out your lip and you go, excuse me, let me start that over. If you get your little feelings hurt, you can't pooch out your lip, go home crying to mama. And yes, I'm talking to you too, ladies. You are starting a new life together. And in this new life, you are with each other. And you're starting new memories. You're starting new challenges await you. But you need to understand, each of you still have a life that you've lived. Your family, you're raising, family memories, history. You need to understand that both of you come with a family. You need to try to get along. There's respect. Exodus chapter 20:12, Deuteronomy 5:16, both talk about honoring mother and father. This goes both ways. Matthew 15:4, don't speak evil of your mother and father. And what I mean by this is, I need to respect my mother and father. I need to respect Melissa's mother and father. That's what I mean by going both ways. She came with a family. I came with a family. You need to understand this. Parents and the potential spouse won't always have everything in common. Often we'll have different likes, dislikes. This is normal. The parents may even have some reservations about the potential spouse. But still, maintain the relationship. Maintain the respect. Over in Exodus chapter 18, verse 7, it says, and this is talking about Moses. Then Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, and he bowed down and kissed him, and they asked each other of their welfare and went into the tent. So just pointing out here, it shows Moses and his father-in-law getting along, still around each other, interacting. I'm not saying, please hear me say, you get married, you don't necessarily need to live out the back door of your mother and father's house. I got away from that. That was the way my family was. Everyone lived right there close to everybody. I got away from that. So I'm not saying that, but I'm just trying to get everyone to understand that there's a family. There's really no need, unless sin is involved, there's no need to discount your spouse's family or not respect them. And two, keeping close to your parents, either set, could be a good example of marriage. It could be something to look at. You might even pick up wisdom or advice. I've got there Exodus chapter 18, verses 14 through 24. It's talking about Moses' father-in-law was talking to him, giving him some advice, and Moses actually listened. Now, I may get in some dangerous ground right here, but marriage is not a business. It's your marriage. It's not a store that closes at the end of the day. You're not the boss who goes around barking orders. Now, I'm not speaking against the head of the wife or wife submitting. I'm not speaking against that. I want to make that clear. But we need to know our place. We need to know our roles. vitally important in marriage. That's why I cite God's pattern. We need to understand. We see America, we see people wanting to get away from this, trying to destroy the family, trying to destroy marriages and the roles and the pattern that God has set. But marriage is not a business. Over in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 22 through 23, it does talk there. Verse 22 is talking about wives, be subject to your own husbands. Verse 23, for the husband is the head of the wife. Again, I'm not speaking against this, but there does need to be feeling. There does need to be teamwork. She is not your employee. In a business, you're just a number. You're just a hired hand. Not the case in a marriage. She's not your janitor or your maid or your hired cook. Now, I've heard of some husbands, they come home and before they barely step foot in the door, they're already yelling out and barking, "What's for supper? Where is it?" Now, if things work out this way and the wife can have this ready and that's what happens and great and it's able, okay, great. I'm not speaking against it. But I'm kind of saying, guys, don't expect it. Don't expect it because life happens. There could be busy days. There could be rough days. She may be sitting in a chair holding your child and both of them covered in vomit. Don't ask about food. You want to be a real man? Without griping or concern for your stomach or an interrogation to her, grab a towel and clean it up. If you come home and she looks frustrated, sad, or stressed, offer a hug or a shoulder to cry on. Well, David, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you right here. That's just you talking. That's just your commentary. You're supposed to attach Scripture to it. 1 Peter 3, 7 and 8. You husbands, in the same way, live with your wives in an understanding way, as with someone weaker, since she is a woman, and show her honor as a fellow heir of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. To sum up, all of you, guys, we're not exempt from all. All of you be harmonious, sympathetic, brotherly, kind-hearted, and humble in spirit. Husbands do need to be leaders. They need to be the man of the house. But be understanding and helpful. You're not marrying so she can do everything for you. You need to help out. You're a team. Genesis chapter 2, verse 18. We're familiar with that one. That is where, find my scripture here, 2:18. Then the Lord God said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him." Notice, guys, God said, you need help. I will make you a helper. Vine says it's a fellow worker. We're to work together. The wife is to submit, yes, but husbands, you help out. Look at our relationship with God. This is interesting. Look at our relationship with God. He is God Almighty. He's in charge. He's the head. We submit to Him. But I find it interesting that in Isaiah 41:10, God says, "I will strengthen you, surely I will help you." In Psalm 54:4, David said, "Behold, God is my helper." If God can be a helper, then we ought to be. And if you go on in Psalm 54:4, it goes on to say, "The Lord is the sustainer of my soul." If God is a helper, helping to sustain our souls, our job as husbands is to look out for our wife's soul. Now, the wives, they all look out for the husband's soul. That's one of the things in marriage. You're protecting and watching out for each other's soul. But just kind of focusing on the husband, you watch out for the wife's soul. If you're not treating her right, if you're not being the husband that God expects you to be, then you could cause her to be bitter, be filled with hate, and you both are possibly in jeopardy of losing your souls. So we work together. Well, David, I'm going to tell you right now. I wear the pants in this marriage. Okay, good. But who warns you that they're unzipped? You are the leader. But who and why are you leading? Are you leading for yourself? For your betterment? Not thinking about your wife, not thinking about your family? Or are you leading in the right way, selfless? Are you leading because it's what God expects of you? Are you leading for God? Are you leading for your wife? Are you leading to be a good example to others? Wives, you are submitting, but are you just going through the motions? Are you just checking it off at the end of the day? Okay, I've done it all. Or are you doing it because you love and respect God and your husband? Preparation and then passion. An artist is going to have passion. He's not going to be robotic. It's not going to be without feeling. They're going to put their best into it. And I know we compare a lot. I've been comparing to paintings. We look in Ephesians chapter 5 and we compare marriage is compared to Christ and the church. In verse 23, Christ is the head of the church. Find Ephesians here. For the husband is the head of the church, as Christ also is the head of the church. And then in verse 24, but as the church is subject to Christ, so also the wives ought to be to their husbands in everything. So we're following a pattern. We're following something here, a comparison. We need to be treating our marriage like Christ and the church. And three things we learn from Jesus here. One, love. Verse 25 says, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her. You love your wives. It's a command. Guys, love your wives. And we see Christ love the church. So we're supposed to follow in the footsteps of Jesus. We're supposed to treat our marriage like Christ and the church. We need to be loving our wives. And then in verse 28 and 33, we're also told again to love our wives. There's honor. Verse 27, that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she would be holy and blameless. It says there glory and holy. There we go. And holy means set apart. It's something to honor. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. It says, you husbands in the same way live with your wives in an understanding way, as with someone weaker, since she is a woman, show her honor and a fellow heir of the grace of life. So we see here, you show her honor because she's a fellow heir, but also she's your wife. She's special. If the church is set apart and there's honor for that, we need to follow that example and honor our wives. Honor. And then there's cherish. Verse 29. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ also does the church. Christ cherishes the church. The church is special, so are our wives. This is a lifelong journey. And remember back in Matthew chapter 19, verses 5 and 6, he talked about become one, let no man separate. Romans 7:2 told us it is until death. It's going to take perseverance. Preparation, passion, perseverance. An artist will see it through. He's going to stay dedicated to his project, what he's doing. If you're thinking of something being painted, he's going to work at it. He's going to stay dedicated to it. It took 4 years for Michelangelo to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Now, I know when I say perseverance, it may sound like I'm saying marriage is a burden. It's a trial. Oh, I got to persevere. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And even some people may be thinking, well, your wife may be thinking, well, are you saying you have to persevere? Am I that hard to get along with? That's not what I'm saying. I'm more talking about the things beyond your control. I'm talking about life. There will be challenges. Now, talking about the comparison of Jesus in the church to marriage, Jesus had a devotion to the church and its success. Jesus was going to see it through. And along the way, there were problems and challenges. Satan tempting Jesus, Luke 4. People trying to trap him into saying things, wrong things. Doubting, the mocking, the wanting to kill him, betrayed. Jesus faced all kinds of challenges. He faced problems all along the way, yet he persevered. He persevered for the church. And as we've read, Ephesians chapter 5, verse 27, he gave his life. He gave his life. And in your marriage, there will be challenges. There will be problems. Most of the challenges, though, are not your spouse's fault. Don't take out your frustration on them. You pull together. You work through together. Be there for each other. When the cars break down, one after the other, the roof leaks, and the appliances get jealous and want to get in on the action, it's not your spouse's fault. It's the problems in life that just sometimes happen. Many of our old school couples, I'll call them, our grandparents, more like my grandparents, lived in tough times. Great Depression, World War. They didn't have the modern conveniences that we have. They faced tough times, hard times. But they stayed together. They leaned on each other. They were there for each other. They grew stronger with each other. And I fear that some of today's couples would throw their marriage away just because they got in a fight over what TV show to watch. There will be disagreements between husbands and wives, but you work through them together. We sometimes may be guilty of being able to get along better with a coworker and work out a problem with them than we can our own wife or our own husband. Shouldn't be that way. You should be able to work it out. You have to. Don't let the challenges of life damage your marriage. Remember, Matthew 19:6 says, let no man separate. You can't let these problems separate and destroy something that God put together. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8. We're very familiar with this. It's often applied to social relationships, church family, but we also need to apply it to marriage. Love is patient, bears all things, endures all things. I put those together to basically, it's about just basically being patient with each other. You bear all things, you endure all things. You be patient with each other. Love is kind. Do the little things. Be gentle. Appreciate the little things. I'm not going to look up so that nobody thinks I'm looking at them and calling them out. But it seems like as married couples get older, the distance between them in pews get further apart. And I say that with a smile on my face. I'm not fussing at anyone, and I'm not up here to do that. But what I'm trying to get to is this. Appreciate the little things, because one day they won't be there. You get caught up in the things of life and you overlook little things, like sometimes your wife just wants you to hold her hand. And you could probably ask a lot of people that don't have a husband or wife anymore, and they would probably tell you, look, I just one more time. If I could just hold their hand one more time. Just one more gentle kiss. One more feel of their arm around me. Appreciate the little things. Do the little things that make each other smile, and to know that you're thinking of them and that you appreciate them and that you love them. Love is kind. And is not jealous. Don't be jealous of each other's roles. Don't be jealous of that. Does not brag and is not arrogant. Don't be arrogant, not arrogant about what you do or what you contribute. Just don't be arrogant, period. We all know that that's just something. We don't need to be boastful and arrogant. Don't do that in your marriage either. Remember, and I hope this really makes, you understand what I'm trying to say here, the point I'm trying to make. Remember, yes, you said yes to your spouse, but they also chose to say yes to you. Does not act unbecomingly. Act like the husband that God intends you to be. Act like the wife that He intends you to be. Does not seek its own. Remember, Jesus was willing to die for the church. And most husbands would say, "I die for my wife." But will we live for her? For your marriage? Jesus gave Himself up in death, but He also gave Himself up in life. He put He put the things in His mind and things that He wanted or maybe a thought about, He put that to the side. It didn't matter. What mattered was the church. What mattered was its success. That was His priority. Give yourself up for your spouse. Give yourself up for your marriage. Live selfless. Make your spouse, your marriage, your priority. Not provoked. Don't be quick to anger. This may be one of the big problems in marriage is tempers flare. Things are said, and you can't take them back. You're quick to anger, and you just blast out yelling and demeaning, and you say things that you normally wouldn't say, and the damage is done. And sometimes it gets so out of hand, next thing you know, the marriage is over. Don't be quick to anger. Don't be provoked. And I don't. Before we go to that one, I say don't be quick to anger. If you're the other party, don't do the things that's going to provoke. Don't do the things that's going to eat away at your husband or at your wife that's going to cause the anger. Keep yourselves in check, doing what you're supposed to do. Like it says, do not act unbecomingly. Does not take into account a wrong suffered. Don't hold a grudge. We're taught in the Bible to not be bitter. If there's a problem, fix it and move past it. Does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth. Both of you are seeking salvation. You don't want to see each other do wrong. You don't want to see each other mess up. You rejoice. You're seeking salvation, to do right, to live right. You encourage each other. You strengthen each other. You're there for each other. As we said, you're looking out for each other's soul. You're both putting God first. Believes all things, hopes all things. You believe in each other. You hope for the best. You both are believing and hoping in heaven. And you remember, you're in this together. You're believing in each other. Love never fails. You need to put this to the marriage. And remember these things. I know people have seen this before. The marriage triangle. You want to get somebody looking at you weird, talk about your marriage and say, it's in good shape. It's in the shape of a triangle. If both of you, notice both are smiling, very important. Husbands, you're smiling. If you both put God as your priority, God is first, and you both are trying to grow closer to God, you grow closer to each other. Always put God first. You grow closer. This relationship, as we stated, is second only to our relationship with God. God created the heavens and the earth. Then after that, He created, obviously, man and woman, but then He created marriage. He designed marriage. Need to take extreme care of this relationship. God has charged us as husbands and wives to do our part, to take care of this, to be good examples to others, to maintain this, and to show people that it can be done and it needs to be done in the right way. Being prepared. Think about what you're getting into. Make sure you're up for the challenge. Having a passion for your spouse, your marriage, a passion for looking out for each other's soul. And you persevere. In persevering, you're being devoted. You don't give up. You don't give in. You stick to it. You see it through. You follow God's pattern. If you follow God's pattern, marriage will succeed. God spelled it out for us. We have the Bible. He gives us the pattern and what we're supposed to do. I know that this has not been a lesson necessarily designed for what one must do to be saved, but in a way maybe it kind of is, because as we stated, if you're not living right as a husband, you're not doing the things God has charged you with, your soul's in jeopardy. They're commands. Same thing for wives. They're commands. But we do want to take this moment to offer that if there's someone here, you've been baptized, but you've fallen away. As we said, that there's challenges in life, and it trips you up and you fall. But God says, get back up. I'm here waiting on you. If you ask me for forgiveness, I will forgive you, and I will remember your sins no more. That is such a wonderful, wonderful promise God has made to us. And if you're someone that's not been baptized, sadly, you're not a child of God, and your soul is in jeopardy, it's in jeopardy of going to hell. You need to make the decision to obey God, to be baptized, so that you can make your life right with Him. And if you would have either one of these needs, would you please make it known right now as we stand and sing?